Hey everyone, so this is Arthur's new stream. He's gonna be doing some cool stuff. He's just gonna be getting into it, really, and he loves it.
Are you sure that's
so excited? Look how excited he is. Can you smell it?
I don't know. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So I've pretty much finished on my pregnancy and labour kind of journey with Walter as my first son. This is I'm just going to talk about my first breastfeeding journey, as breastfeeding is a widely talked about topic for new mums, and I hope that, I don't know, sharing my experience may help someone of you out there, or I give you some more information, because I definitely learnt a lot. So when Walter was born, he didn't, we kind of offered him to latch himself, but we didn't I don't remember putting a lot of time into kind of getting him to want to latch. He was alert and awake and everything, and I think he would have, but I think we were just kind of, too gobsmacked looking at him, and it had been such a long labour, I was exhausted. And then I do remember though, when everything was cleaned up and we were getting into bed, and just before my parents left to go home, we got to bed and Mum came in and she kind of helped me to latch him and get it kind of all started and what I should be looking for. So that was kind of the first thing, and I had no pain. Okay, no, I did have pain, but that was just the normal first, I think it was the first week and a half of just my nipples getting used to feeding a baby that I'd never done before. And my milk came in on the end of the second day, during the night. I woke up and I was fully engorged. Mums who have been through this know what that feels like. It was pretty hectic. So that was really interesting. So yeah, pretty much the end of the second day was kind of when that happened, overnight. And he was feeding, for me, it seemed like he was feeding fine, pretty regularly, and didn't have any pain. It was pretty easy to latch him, and he had a perfect latch. His mouth was sitting right, everything was going as you would expect it to go in a perfect scenario. We had other issues. For the first week he was really congested, and that was really hard because to sleep, he needed to be propped up, and he would scream and scream. He had a lot of gas, and it just seemed like a really difficult thing to try and help him release it, doing every trick that is out there, massaging the baby, their belly, and going in a certain direction around their belly button, and pedaling their legs and everything. It was really exhausting and stressful. It was so stressful. There were so many times, obviously as a new mum, there were a lot of times where I called my mum up in tears, being he's just screaming and he won't stop crying. So that led us to then get a dummy, and it didn't work as well as we hoped, because babies like to push things out of their mouth, and so we had to keep putting it back in his mouth, and so it only lasted for some periods of time and wasn't the best kind of fixer for our situation. And so we kept having issues with his gas. Then I kept making comments to my mum that he would only feed for a really short period of time before falling asleep, and I didn't know that was an issue, but it was just, I put him on to feed, and then the next minute I looked down and he's asleep and he's barely sucking. Just I kept making posts in groups I was in, asking questions this is happening, what does it mean? And I would say to Mum, I'd get really stressed out because I would feel he wasn't feeding enough, and I would go 3 hours, even 4 hours between feeds, and I didn't feel I was thinking that I'd feel fuller in milk going that long between a feed, but I just wasn't. So I was freaking out that I didn't have enough supply. There was this round and round circle that I kept going and not finding out kind of what was going on. He didn't plummet massively in weight. I guess he had a pretty alright slow gain, but he did gain. So I know he wasn't it wasn't dangerous or anything, but I was just so stressed with the first 6 months of his breastfeeding. And I remember you know, I would call the ABA. So if you're not in Australia, the ABA is the Australian Breastfeeding Association. Talk to them because they have a 24-hour helpline. He just didn't seem like he was feeding a whole lot, and I felt like I wasn't replenishing very well. And through different posts I'd made on like Facebook pages that I was in, some people kept saying about tongue ties and lip ties, and then people would mention going to see a chiropractor, and I would think, what the heck is a lip tie, what the heck is a tongue tie? I had no idea. I'd asked my mum, neither of us had any idea about these things. And then, you know, I'd be like, well, I can't go to a chiropractor because I can't afford a chiropractor, right? Because they're so expensive. I probably could have like made it work, but it wasn't until he was 5.5 months. A couple of times, I think between 3 months and 6 months, I went and did actually see a specific like GP for babies to kind of see what they had to say about it. I asked them, like, she said that he was on the lower end, and she wanted me to like start solids if I could, and she kind of helped a little bit with his latching and making sure that I just held him right. And she had a look at his tie to see if he had like a tongue tie, and she didn't seem bothered. She didn't think it was an issue. But I got a second opinion, and around 5.5 months I finally just took him to a chiropractor. I found someone that people recommended who's not actually that far from me. I can't believe I didn't go sooner, because instantly they had a lot more experience with tongue ties and lip ties, and instantly were able to tell me that yes, he has a very bad posterior tongue tie, which is something that's harder to detect, and a very bad lip tie as well. So lip and tongue, usually if they have the lip tie, it will indicate that they have a tongue tie as well. It was then, you know, okay, find a provider to get that fixed. And at that time it was like, there's no way I have hundreds of dollars to go to someone to pay them, so I had to find someone who was bulk bill doctor. So just wanting to fix it and be able to breastfeed well, we went to see someone just at the local medical center. And by this time, because I didn't feel like he was getting enough, I had started to supplement with formula, and it broke my heart to do that. I had quite a few times where I would just bawl my eyes out, kind of just have a breakdown, because I was so ready to feed him and do that thing that as a mother, you know, you're supposed to be able to do. You're supposed to be able to feed your child, right? To successfully breastfead them. I had no idea of all this other stuff, all these breastfeeding issues that are there. I didn't know about that. I didn't know I had to look at that. I just kind of thought it would happen, but it didn't. And it was really hard. It like really broke me, and I felt like I was failing as a mother to have to introduce formula into his diet, because at the time I didn't know about ties. I hadn't actually done anything then when I had introduced it, and felt like I couldn't feed him, I couldn't meet that need. And we also, around 5.5 months, so around the time that we went to see the chiropractor, we did actually start introducing some solids. He was just the kind of baby that goes, ooh, food, and doesn't really stop as soon as it's introduced. As soon as you start giving him food, he just kept going and loved everything you would give to him. So thankfully he wasn't very fussy, but that was, I guess, made it easier for me to then give him extra stuff, because he was wanting to eat it. And so we found this GP who bulk billed. I didn't really know much about kind of looking around for different ones. I just knew I didn't have the money to pay for someone who was a little higher up. So we went to this GP, and he said, yep, you know, we'll just snip that. I think we used a little bit of a swab so he wouldn't feel it, and he didn't move. Like, we were really surprised. He was so, like, Walter, he was so still during this whole thing. I was so proud of him. But yeah, he just went in there and he just snipped it. there was the tinsiest bit of blood, but that was it. He said, yep, that's done, like that's it, don't need to do anything else. He said like rub it a couple times, like to kind of make sure it didn't reattach, but that was all he said. And then we were done and we were out of there. Nothing was done about his lip tie. I don't think we even really knew about the lip tie as much then. But I think I kept going to the chiropractor fairly regularly, because then I actually went back to see them, because sometimes breastfeeding can be because I'm kind of, my body's down, and I found out that I have a curve in my spine, so I don't know if that contributed at the time. I know it contributed to pain I had in pregnancy. But yeah, so we kind of kept taking him back, and it was good to have him adjusted, because sometimes babies are a bit sleepy the day after they've had their adjustment, or like that night. And after he had his adjustment, he was like, the feeding wasn't necessarily instantly improved. I think we had the chiropractor and the snip done the same day, but he, oh my gosh, what it used to be like when I would feed him, when this is around the 5 to 6 month mark, he would scream, he would arch his back on, I think it was particularly my right side, and he just would not feed, and I would have to just try and keep putting him back or hold him until I had a letdown. And as soon as I had a letdown, he was instantly on and would feed, or at least take in the letdown until it stopped, and then he was done. So he wasn't even putting in the effort. And that was because, now that I know, I've done a lot more reading and research, but now I know that he was not feeding for very long and falling asleep so easily when he was little, is because it was tiring him out. So because his tie was so restrictive, he wasn't able to move his tongue the right way, and so it was restricting him and tiring him out really quickly. And so then he just learned to not put any effort in, and he would just wait for the letdown. So that's what he always did after that. And so once he had his chiropractor appointment, he was so much calmer. Like, not 100% completely calm, but like 80% calmer than he had been before, where I would lay him and feed him. The relief was awesome. And then his feeding kind of improved, and we kept going. But then we already kind of introduced the formula. He was already having that on top of what I was giving him. But then he had the solid food as well that he was eating, and for a short period of time, I tried to kind of bring my supply back, but I kind of feel like I failed at that. And I, at the time, didn't know that I could actually bring it back fully to then take him off the formula. And so we just kind of we mixed formula, breastfeeding, and solids, which was a bit disappointing. I know I could have put in a bit more effort and gotten my supply back properly, but that's just kind of how it ended up being. So with his gas that I mentioned earlier that he had, that's actually a really big symptom of a tie, because they're usually taking in more air because of those issues with being able to move their tongue and like positioning and feeding and all that things. So he had a massive reduction in the amount of gas that he had. That was causing him so much distress when we went to the chiropractor as well. So I look back on it and kind of wish that I'd really kind of thought about what I was doing and listened to some other people, and not just kind of gone, I have no idea what that is, I'm not even going to kind of think about it even, for more than 5 seconds. And I was really naive in that matter, and I really should have, listened, but that's happened. So it was kind of quite rough, and we stopped breastfeeding around 8 months, which was around the time that I got pregnant with Arthur. And at that time, we stopped shortly after I went to Melbourne with my mum for a visit, and he came with me. So he was teething at the same time when I was down in Melbourne, and so it was really scary to breastfeed him with teeth and with all that's going on, like hormones in my body. And so he didn't really go very far. I'm pretty sure he stopped breastfeeding when we were actually down there. So that was a bit disappointing. It was really hard for me to not reach a year. That was like my goal was to reach a year, so that was really hard to kind of handle. But yeah, that's my story. I would really encourage you to do some research, kind of find out a bit more about ties and using a chiropractor, because I think it's really important for every baby, even if it's just once soon after they've been born. But anyway, that's a completely different subject, using chiropractors. I hope that my story has been helpful or interesting to listen to, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please click like if you did, and also subscribe. I've actually reached 30 subscribers now, so this is pretty cool. It was really exciting to kind of wake up and see that. So yeah, click subscribe if you haven't. I do post a video every week. But that's it for today, and I'll see you guys next week in my next